Hello, hello. Adrienne here, solo episode, which is both exciting and terrifying because we all know that I'm the most long winded efficiency expert that you'll ever meet. And so, my challenge and opportunity is to make sure that I am concise while I am left to my own devices here. One thing that really terrified me when I started recording is that I hate when these platforms change the buttons or how things look. And it was like, go live. And I was like, I don't want to go live. I just want to record this. So I'm like, I hope this isn't live streaming anywhere, but I guess we'll find out later. So today is a big day at the household. Yesterday I had a kindergarten graduation. Today's the last day of school for my kindergartner. So I gotta get over there, pick her up. I don't understand when every school started doing early release on the last day of school and 5 events for every single day during the last week. Plus we've had 10 straight theme days of different, whatever they were supposed to wear each day. I'm like, okay, I am over this. Love you so much. And thank you for, being the greatest teacher and supporting my child and helping them grow all year. But can we just not? I have too many things going on to deal with one more school activity. So today is early release. Then they have a party at a park. So I'm taking her to that. Anyways, wanted to get this recorded before I go and do that. So, I love a deadline, a constraint. And so I have actually a doctor's appointment for myself. And so I have to get this recorded. And so I can't even go long if I wanted to. That's the other trick that I often do is you have to give yourself constraints, right? We've talked about that before. But this episode is not going to be about constraints. What we're actually talking about is visionary expansion more so, right? Because I've been having a lot of conversations with peers, colleagues. I've really just been prioritizing communication, networking, just talking to people. I posted this on my social media. I was like, if you want to steal my growth strategy right now, I'll give it to you for free. Here it is. Just talk to people, go and talk to people. And that's what I've been doing. And it's been bringing up lots of good conversation and ideas and things that I'm like, oh, I want to talk about that more. And so I was having a conversation with someone recently and it brought up what I want to talk about today, which is this idea that, or my belief, and what I have experienced and seen is that when you have a business that cannot run without you, it becomes less of an asset and more of a liability to you, right? And this might feel uncomfortable to even think about, but I want you to really lean in. I want you to really think about this. I want you to put the hat on for yourself as I talk through some of this, right? And this might be uncomfortable, right? But it's is your business actually a business, or is it just a job with lipstick, right? A job with lipstick, not a pig with lipstick, a job with lipstick, right? It's my business is something that requires a lot of me or all of me, right? If the whole thing really depends on you showing up every single day, and if it collapses the moment you step away, if it's not valuable to someone else, if you had to step away, or if you decided you wanted to sell, would someone even want to buy it? I've been in recent conversations, and this has happened to me multiple times over the years, where someone approaches me about purchasing their business or acquiring a piece of their business, etc. And when we start getting into the acquisition conversations and we look at the systems and we look at the revenue and we look at the relationships and we start to recognize and start to pull things apart and go, I appreciate that you have built this thing. I see the value. I see that there is some value in what you have done. But once we take you out of it, the value disappears, right? It just disintegrates into the ground. And it's that is a huge liability, not just for you, but for your family, for your clients, for your team members, right? And that's not the type of business that I think you want to build. That is just a job with lipstick because it feels a little better, right? It has maybe some fun branding and you get to do what you want to do. No one's telling you what to do, right? But you also can't just quit. You can't just call in sick because you're the one that is needed. You can't take a real maternity leave. You can't sell it. You can't hand it off or create a succession plan for someone. Like, you are it, right? And so I want to talk about why that matters today and why most female founders haven't thought through this and haven't taken the necessary steps to step away from that reality. So I'll give you a little bit of backstory. This was probably 9 years ago at this point. This was probably 9 years ago at this point. I was first starting to build Clockwork, and someone called me. They messaged me, and then I hopped on a call with them because they had a dental practice through their entire career, right? Like, that was their profession, and they owned a dental practice. And because it was so reliant on them, like, showing up every day, they decided to sell it. Okay. So they sold the dental practice to another dentist. Obviously, that happens fairly often in the medical space, in the dental medical practitioner world. The value is the book of business, right? And the processes and procedures, whatever. He's the dentist. So if he wants to retire or move on to something else, he needs to sell the practice or just shut it down. So he was able to sell the practice because he wanted to spend more time with the family and whatever. That's the backstory. The real story is then he started this new business as a retiree, a dog food review website. Okay. And it sounds very niche, right? Maybe even silly to you. But this dog food review website was making a lot of money, like high 6 to 7 figures, decent money, right? For a solopreneur. He was running it himself because no one else could do what he was doing. No one else knew how, essentially. He hadn't removed himself. Everything was owner dependent. And he called me because he was like, I really need what you do. I need your help because, like, this thing, it has millions of views every month. I make decent money off of the ad revenue. But if I pass away, he was getting up there in age. He's like, if I pass away, this is a huge liability to my wife because she can't sell it at this point. She can't run it. And she has to figure out how to untangle it all, basically, right? And there's contracts with vendors. There's things that we would be obligated to continue to produce. And it could be an asset for her if I did this work to remove the owner dependency. And this is the story that is true for so many people, but we don't realize it. We don't realize that the thing that we have built is more of a liability than an asset at this point, right? And so I've been having this conversation a lot. I want to have this conversation with you. And I want to specifically center women within this conversation because I think I know that we're worse at this than men in terms of being able to exit in one way, shape, or form. And I'm going to talk about different ways that you can, quote unquote, exit. It doesn't need to look like a sale, but I mean like how you could be out of office, how you could step away, right? So here's some statistics that I think really anchor the plot here, right? So women own roughly 40% of all businesses in the United States. We're talking over 15 million companies, and we're generating nearly $3 trillion in revenue, and we're employing over 12 million people. That's amazing. Like, these are amazing stats for women, right? And we represent, of that 40%, we represent just over 1% of business exits. 1%. So somewhere between starting the business and exiting or getting out of the business, we fail to do that. We flop. We shit the bed. Like, we're not doing a good job at that. And we need to do better. And that's part of why I exist in this season of my life, is to help more women figure out what is the path, what is the future for you of this business, and how do we turn this into a real asset for your wealth building, for your life, for your vision that you have, right? So some additional stats that I think are important. And if you see me, like if you're watching the video version, yes, I'm reading some stats because I want to get them right. So the other piece of this puzzle is when women do exit, it's usually not planned. Like, y'all, we need to go into the business thinking about what is the path out. And we don't do that, right? We think this is forever. And for some people, it can be forever, but you still want to have the options, okay? And you want to build with the options available to you, right? So it's usually not planned when we do exit. What does that mean, right? So according to the Global Entrepreneurship Monitor, a survey across 49 countries says that 18% of female founders who exited did so for personal or family reasons. So probably, if I'm going to just take a guess, right, from this data, like probably women are getting to the point where maybe they're family planning or someone gets ill and they need to step away. And because they can't step away, because the business is so owner dependent in the day-to-day, they can't step away, or they don't see a future where they could still own the business and deal with whatever family or personal crises is happening, they exit, and they probably exit for a lot less money than they should. Women actually sell their equivalent businesses for way less money than men, right? So all things being equal, if a man sells a business and a woman sells a business, the woman is going to get less money. And this is what happens when you're forced into an exit versus planning for an exit, is you'll take less money because you're like, I just need out. And that tracks with this statistic of 18% of female founders who exit are exiting not because they wanted to, but because it was unplanned and it was for a personal or family reason, right? So men typically exit towards an opportunity, and women typically exit because life forced our hand. And so we need to shift this, right? We need to start shifting and shifting our mindset earlier on as we're building, just to give ourselves the options, give ourselves the opportunities. But this isn't just about a sale in terms of exit. I want you to be thinking about an exit also in terms of just stepping away from the day-to-day, being able to take a sabbatical, being able to take a vacation, being able to take a maternity leave, right? You probably left a job to have freedom, and now you take off less days than when you had a job, right? Because small business owners, here's another stat, small business owners overall take an average of just 5 days off per year. 5 days off per year. If you were to go into a corporate organization or go get a W-2 job and they only gave you 5 days of vacation per year, you would riot. You would go, that's insane, right? Or that actually was my reality when I first had a corporate job. I had 5 days off, and everyone was like, oh my God, that's terrible. And like, I know. And you got to work X number of years to get your second week off. But that's not good, especially when we work for ourselves, and you could give yourself as much time as you wanted if you prepped the business for it, right? So that's typically half of what a regular employee takes. 5 days. We take half of what a corporate employee is going to take. And when they do take a vacation, 67% of entrepreneurs check in with work every single day. So I'm like, okay, so you're not actually taking a vacation at all, right? If we're really being serious, you're not actually taking one at all. So a couple different reasons I think that we do this. I think that we fail at the exit part of running the business. Mostly the identity piece, right? Like, who am I if I don't run this business? I've worked to build this thing. And operationally, you'll never take the actions you need to take to operationally remove that owner dependency if your identity is in question, right? So if you're thinking like, well, who am I? Like, who am I if I'm not the owner of this business? Who am I if I'm not a 7-figure female founder? Who am I if I'm, don't work anymore. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean about who I am? And so men are again building towards opportunity. They're handed a different map when it comes to business. And the old boys club like is a real thing, right? Like they teach each other, they pass these things down. They know like, all right, here's what you do, right? They're taught probably more from their value is in being a provider, and being a provider means probably moving towards an exit, right? They're more attached to how do I make this an asset versus how do I make this who I am, right? And as women, we attach more to the identity piece of being a business owner, right? But men are taught from day one, build it, scale it, sell it, move on to the next thing, right? And women are taught like, this is your baby, this is your community, this is your purpose in life. And so stepping away sometimes feels like a betrayal. It feels like a betrayal of the business. It feels like a betrayal of the team. It feels like a betrayal of the clients. It feels like a betrayal of yourself, the version of you that built this thing, right? And so it's much harder for us to even think about that as an option for us. Maybe you even feel like you owe people, like, oh, I owe it to my team to keep this going or to stay involved. I owe it to my clients. And the idea of even stepping back and not being as involved, even if you never sell it, but like stepping away and letting the team, deliver to the clients or really run the entire business, it feels like maybe an abandonment to them, or like you owe something and you're letting people down. And so you never even let yourself go there mentally, right? And then this third piece that I've talked about is like the identity, right? This is the one that a lot of us don't recognize, but it's like you are so wrapped up in this that your identity is wrapped up in being needed by people. Like this is where you feel valued and where you feel valuable, right? So there's calls that you feel like only you can take. You feel like there's fires that only you can put out. You feel like there's clients who only want to work with you, right? And so that's what makes the business go. Makes you feel needed. It makes you feel like you matter. And the result of that is you never really give yourself permission to imagine what else could possibly be true for your life, for your business, for your vision, right? For your health, for yourself as a parent, for yourself as a child, for yourself as a partner, for yourself just as a woman, right? And so it's like this thing has never been built intentionally to survive without you, because if it can survive without you, who are you and what is your value? And so that's something we have to start to deconstruct, right? The other piece of this is that a lot of us are only thinking of like an exit as a sale, right? And I want to reframe that. I want you to think about this as like different options, different futures, different definitions of what exit means, right? Because this is a conversation we desperately need to be having, is that these different exits just provide options for you. You never have to sell your business if you don't want to, but you do need to remove the dependency on you. Remove the owner dependency, and it gives you an unlimited array of options for yourself, for your business, and turns it into a wealth building asset for yourself, right? I often ask my clients, like, are you the woman who operates one business, or are you a woman who runs a portfolio of 20 businesses? Because those two women are operating completely differently, right? Like you can't operate one business the way you currently are, or you can't operate 20 businesses the way you're currently operating the one, right? Like you have to actually step into founder, owner mentality, identity, instead of operator status, right? And so here's like just some things for you to think about in terms of different exits. And I'm actually running a full training on this that you can join us for free. If you go to level11leaders.com/OOO, stands for out of office, okay? OOO, level11leaders.com/OOO. I'll put it in the show notes as well. I'm going to talk through all of these at length, ad nauseum, but I'm just going to brief through some of these options in terms of what an exit could actually look like, right? So an exit could just mean stepping back from the day-to-day, right? Like, so just stay in your visionary seat. The business runs, you set the direction, but you stop being the operator. That is what I'm calling like a future or an exit, right? It is an exit path. You could also do something like hire a CEO or hire a high level operator. You collect a check, you own it, but you don't work in it anymore. Okay. You could also sell a percentage of your business and keep the equity as long as someone else can run it for you, right? So it's kind of like a partial exit. You can stay involved only at the level that you choose, right? I have had clients and I know people that they do a partial exit. They stay involved as a visionary or as a board member, right? In different capacities, as a community leader, whatever. You get to be as creative as you want with your business in terms of what's next and what the ideal state looks like for you, while still understanding that this is an asset that you can build wealth from. You could also build it to the point where it funds the next thing, right? The business becomes the vehicle, not the destination. The business becomes the thing that fuels and feeds the next thing in your vision. So you could, again, sell it, sell part of it, grow it, scale it to the point where you can exit the day to day, but you keep receiving paychecks from it, right? You're now a shareholder. You are not a operator anymore. You could also create a succession plan for this, whether it's passing it down to a team member, a partner, a family member, someone that you trust, so that after you're done being involved in, this stage of the business, then you know that someone else can continue it on beyond you. And then you could also think about an exit as a full sale. That's usually what people think about when they think of exit. But it doesn't have to be a full sale, but it could. That's okay too, right? And this means you've built something worth buying, and you've built something that buyers are interested in because it doesn't need you, right? There's at least, like I said, I just talked through at least 6 versions of what an exit could look like. And most of us have only imagined one, and that one seems really scary to us. So we just don't think about any of them, right? But none of these options exist to you if the business only works when you are involved in it, right? You cannot sell something that collapses without your involvement, or you'll end up selling it for a fraction of what it's actually worth just because you didn't do the work. And this is what I do with my clients, like do the work to remove that owner dependency, to make sure that the business has the systems, the infrastructure, the team, the decision-making authority that we need for it to operate without you, right? And that takes work. It takes time to get those things out of your head and into a infrastructure. But it's so worth it because it will 2 to 3x the value of your business if you can remove the owner dependency, right? So do not sell something at a fraction of the cost just because we were unwilling to do this 12 to 24 months of work. I have a friend who she does wealth management for 7-figure founders. And what she shares with me is that when they get to the valuation stage, she has them do a valuation with a M&A partner who does business valuations. And they're so excited when they see that number. They're like, oh my gosh, I could sell my business for $18 million. That's amazing. And then what they learn is that, wait. It's only actually worth the 18 million if you remove the owner dependency. And they're like, oh, okay, well now I'm motivated, right? And so that's when she connects them with me to say, hey, over the next 2 years, you're going to work with Adrienne, and you're going to do this work to remove the owner dependency so that when you are ready, you get that big number for the business. You're not settling for 11 million, which 11 million is still amazing. But if the business is worth 18 million, let's do the work to get that additional 2 to 3 times the amount that you would potentially sell it for, right? So the other thing, you don't have these options if you can't step back just from the day to day, right? If every decision runs through you, if you can't even take a day off, never mind a 60-day sabbatical, the business cannot run without you, right? And that is a huge liability. And you do not have options if it does not run without you, right? You cannot hand it to someone else if there are no systems, no processes, no documentation, no team that knows how to move things forward without you, knows how to operate this thing without you. Right now, if that's where you are, then this is something you need to work on, right? That is the work, not focusing on how do I make more sales, more revenue, more clients. It's like, okay, that's great. I love when you're in growth mode, and you need the infrastructure to actually turn that growth mode into an asset and not just another liability, not just a yes, we have money this month, but in 2 years, this is worth nothing to us, right? So the business, right, that feels like your greatest accomplishment right now might actually be a liability for your family, your team, your clients, right? Because if something happened to you tomorrow, and this is usually the thing, it's usually not because we're ready to sell or whatever, that's more planned. Usually it's because we have something unplanned that pops up, a health incident, an accident, or we're burning out, right? We really need spaciousness, maternity leave, whatever. Like, what happens to the income if you cannot show up? What happens to the team? What happens to the clients, right? So we have to start thinking about what is important. What do we actually want? And how do I start removing that owner dependency so I can have one of these options, right? So I want to leave you with this. If you had to step away from your business for 90 days, starting tomorrow, you don't get a prep period because you got to stay ready to be ready. Okay. We're not talking about a year from now, 2 years from now, because that is always the default is, oh, someday I'll do that work. But guess what? Most of the time, life doesn't wait for you. So you need to stay ready so that you can be ready. Stay ready and be ready so that if something happens to your health, you're ready. If someone approaches you and wants to buy the business, you're ready and you're not, getting a fraction of what it's actually worth because you're already ready for it. You're like, yep, here it is. Here's my numbers. Here's, the fact that it runs without me. Bam, bing, bang, boom, right? So if you had to step away from your business starting tomorrow for 90 days, not a vacation where you're able to check in, a real full removal, unplugged from the business, would it run? Would it survive? Would it fall apart? And your honest answer to that is going to tell you everything you need to know about what work we actually need to do in the business, right? Because I want your business to be an asset for you. I want your business to give you options. I don't want this to just be a job we put some beautiful lipstick on, right? And the difference between those two things is entirely within your control. That's what we're going to keep talking about on this show, on the free class that I'm talking about, that you can join us for free. It's called Out of Office. So you can go to level11leaders.com/OOO. It's in the show notes as well, where we're going to go even deeper on this idea of stepping out of office. What do you need to do to be able to get ready for that? Which exit is maybe something that you're leaning towards, and what things inside the business should we actually prioritize to get ready for that? I'm going to talk through all of that on this free class. I want you to be there because I want you to be a real businesswoman, a real female founder thinking about your future, not just today. Okay. Thank you for joining me. I will see you again next week, and stay bossy.